Dear friends, hello. Today we have a new video on channel Russian OSINT and it's going to be unique in all aspects. Right now I'm on the line with the legend of the cybersecurity field, crypto enthusiast and professional in privacy and anonymity, Mr. Warith Al-Malvali, also known as a developer of Linux Kodachi. Warith, I'm glad to see you and thanks for finding time.
Thank you, Sergey. It's an honor for me to be hosted today.
To be honest, it is an honor for me to make this interview together. The topic of our discussion will refer to the best practices in the cybersecurity and your recommendations for the people who really care about the safety and privacy. We will talk about Kodachi OS, privacy, anonymity, and the cryptocurrency. All of these things have become really important nowadays, especially in the post-Soviet countries such as Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Ukraine, where people are quite tight with their freedoms in the internet. So before we start a discussion on technical details, I wish to start with a recent story when the Facebook, in cooperation with the FBI, caught a criminal who used Tails OS, recommended by Edward Snowden, former NSA specialist. In our mass media, it was written that the FBI exploited GNOME video player, which is a part of Tails system. As a result, there was a disclosure of the criminal's actual IP address. I would say it's great that FBI has a leverage to catch such people, but on the other hand, it's quite scary, to be honest, that top privacy operation system can be easily compromised in such way. So how many exploits there are, no one actually knows. So I come to the conclusion that US government and many other countries can easily spy on people, get an access to any of the systems at any time, including specially designed distros such as Tails, if they really want to. So would you agree with this statement, or it's not dramatic as I say?
Well, I partially agree on it. They can spy for the majority who do not take precautions on security. But with this case particularly, I wouldn't call it a spy. I would call it, it was a reveal of identity. So when we talk about spying, is like getting all your traffic and see what's going on behind the scene. But on this case, it was only revealing the IP. And I think, yes, for majority, it's possible to be spied on if proper precautions are not taken on security.
In 2013, you have developed a unique OS called Kodachi with clear focus on privacy and anonymity, which is, in my opinion, one of the best secure solutions out of the box for this moment in comparison to Tails and other distros. So my question is, why did you choose Xubuntu instead of Debian like others did? Tails, HeadsOS, Unix, and others.
Well, to start with, I started with Debian, and then I shifted to Mint, Linux Mint, and then I decided to change to Ubuntu, which is Xubuntu now. And the reason behind that is the support of drivers. If you need better support of drivers, you should always go with Ubuntu.
If we look at the comparison table DG77 on your website between Tails and Kodachi, in fact, Kodachi overbeats, I think, Tails completely in many things and gives much more flexibility out of the box. I also have to mention about Fantastic Conky that accurately shows real-time security score on how safe you are at this moment, and are you using VPN, Tor, DNS script, and everything. So it's very nice that it's displayed live on your desktop screen. And be honest, I find it personally fantastic and the best solution so far in terms of the utility in comparison to other like dozens of operation systems. So my question is, why people tend to trust mass products such as Tails, which is in fact too much, I think, advertised and becomes target number one for the FBI, NSA, and other governments. Do you personally trust Tails?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. And regarding Tails, well, the fact is it was there before Kodachi. That's number one. Number two, if you Google it, if you Google anything to do with security distribution, the first thing comes is Tails. So majority, they don't do proper research. They immediately get the first hit and just try Tails. If I would be concerned on security, I would always have proper research before deciding what to use. So, like from my testimonials that I found from DistroWatch, whoever uses Kodachi never goes back to Tails. But for the majority who are using Tails, they don't know that Kodachi exists. And for the second part of your question, do I trust Tails? Honestly, I don't trust anyone. I don't trust Kodachi itself, honestly, because you always have to have multiple layers of security. So if I trust Kodachi because I developed it, I would always have another layer of security. It doesn't mean it has something bad that I don't trust it, but I would always have plan B. If something goes wrong with Kodachi, like what you said on the Tails case, if he had plan B, his IP wouldn't be leaked.
In your opinion, does it make sense in 2020 collect own distro, for example, based on Debian, or right now there are plenty of other solutions out of the box, so user has no need anymore to collect own distro? What is your opinion in this case?
I don't like reinventing the wheel. So if there is a minor demand, you can always adapt it on any of the existing operating systems. You don't have to go and build your own distro now. But if there is a major demand which is not fulfilled by the current operating systems, you can always go and build your own distro.
For a new user who has zero knowledge on reading a code of Kodachi and making sure it's clean, how he can be sure it's safe to use Kodachi? Is it publicly has gone through the audit or reviewed by serious independent specialists?
Okay, there's many facts here. First of all, the developer of Kodachi is transparent. This is Warith al-Ma'ali in front of you. You can see my LinkedIn, you can see my Twitter. I'm always transparent with people. I have nothing to hide on my operating system. And when you compare it with other security operating system, you wouldn't find the developers behind it. That's number one. That's fact number one. Number two, when it comes to source, I'm always supporting open source projects, and I made sure that Kodachi is open source. Now there's a difference between open source, where I show you the code, and at the end I compile it myself, and you don't know what has been compiled. That is partially open source, but at the end you're having a compiled version. In order for you to understand what's inside the compiled version, you have to reverse engineer it. And if I'm smart enough, you won't be able to reverse engineer it. So what I'm doing with Kodachi is actually I'm giving you the source, plus I'm not compiling anything. If you go inside Kodachi, I'm writing all the code in shell scripts. So it's not compiled. Any human being can read it. It's easily to be read by any human being. While if you compare other operating systems, they do offer it in open source, but they compile it themselves. So if you want to be secure, you really have to get their code and do the compilation yourself, and don't rely on anyone when it comes to security.
What is your personal VPN recommendation on Kodachi? Which protocol do you think is the most secure? WireGuard, OpenVPN, or another one? If I understand correctly, Kodachi is using OpenVPN. And do you plan to integrate in Kodachi WireGuard VPN in future releases?
Well, I would mostly recommend people to use OpenVPN because it has been audited and it's matured. WireGuard is faster, but it hasn't been audited yet, so I wouldn't rely on it. I've seen many people have requested to have WireGuard, and whenever I did a research, I wasn't convinced yet that it's the right time to deploy it on Kodachi. So for now, everyone, you should stick with OpenVPN.
When we start talking about Kodachi, the first question which comes is the Kodachi VPN, and is it really secure? Any of us understand that maintaining a server for the VPN is time consuming, it's costly, and a headache sometimes. So how can I be sure as a user there is no logging on a VPN? How can people be sure that personal data is not collected or sold to the companies? How we can try to find a solid argument on that?
Okay, this is a bit, tough to prove, because even though you can see the most popular vendors on VPN, all they state is, we don't store your logs. But how can you verify that? Someone has to take you to the servers, so you make sure that no one logs. So here it's a trust issue. If you trust Warith, then you can use Kodachi VPNs, because I don't store any logs, and I normally destroy the nodes from time to time. You can see the IPs, every 1 month, 2 months, I change the IPs, because I totally destroy and wipe the nodes. That's because I personally use the same nodes. So for me, I wouldn't keep any logs over there to protect myself. And for the users who don't trust Warith and think Kodachi might save logs, They always have alternatives. I'm not forcing anyone to use Kodachi VPN. You can use the operating system. You can use, and on top of that, you can use your own VPN or use the commercial ones, which I'm providing. And some of them are really having a good reputation on security, like Malvad. I would really recommend people to use Malvad. Always in security, never rely on a single source. So don't trust Warith, don't trust Malvad, but always swap between them, you know. Always change the vendors. Don't rely on a single node. As long as they announce that they don't save the logs, you should trust them. But not everyone here. I trust Malvad, honestly. From the list of, I think, 5 providers that I'm having is Malvad and Hyden. The rest I don't trust. But I have them there because there were a demand from the users to have them.
What do you think about the most popular one, like NordVPN, ExpressVPN, all popular, like top 5, I would say?
Well, I would always stay away from them. Why? Because they are always targeted by the agencies, because they might not want to reveal user data, but it depends where they're located. You know, these Five Eyes and Nine Eyes countries, they might be forced by their government to store data. So I would keep away from the most popular ones and stick to the ones who are less known. That's number one, after doing the technical audit, of course. And rule number 1 when picking up a VPN is always, if you can configure your own VPS, that's the way to do it. Configure your own VPS, and that's to give you security. And if you configure your own VPS and you buy it via PayPal, that's not privacy. So you have to buy it through cryptocurrency like Monero in order to have security and anonymity at the same time.
So you don't recommend popular VPN services at all?
Yeah, the popular ones I don't recommend if you're using it for sensitive tasks. But if you want to generate noise, if you want to be among a noisy environment, I would go to the popular one.
Mm-hmm. Is it true that Kodachi is designed only for specific tasks, or it can be used for normal daily work? If I need to use Kodachi daily, should I use it on a VMware, for example, or I need to fully install it on a SSD, for example?
Okay, Kodachi is a multi-purpose operating system. So you can use it to protect your identity, to secure yourself, and you can use it on daily basis, like, you know, Word document, Excel sheets and all. It has all those for audio editing, video editing. It has all of these options included within the operating system. But for daily use, if you are paranoid, no? So, you know, there's different type of users here. If I'm a normal user and security is not a big issue for me, I would have it on my host. Okay, and use it on daily basis. If I'm a normal user where security is not that much of a concern, I would have it on my host machine as an installed version. So I would put it from my SSD. If I'm like a security is a bit of concern for me, I would run it on a VMware and isolate it from my baseline, which is base operating system, whether it's Linux, whether it's Windows. While if I'm super paranoia, I wouldn't run it even on VM. I would run it on a flash memory and put it on live mode.
I'm a blogger, and for me, it's important to find a balance between security and usability. So I need to use it for the daily work, and it's such things like Adobe Premiere, Adobe Fine Reader, Photoshop. Is there any secret way to combine all of it in Kodachi, or it makes sense to have different systems? For example, on laptop Windows 10, on PC it's Kodachi OS.
I would always recommend not to have Adobe packages or any bulk software into Kodachi or even into Windows. If you need to use Adobe or anything similar to that, always create an isolated VM, a virtual machine, where you run your stuff, because you won't be using Adobe every day. But whenever you need it, you just turn on that VM, do your task, and then shut it down. But never try to combine bulky software with either Windows or your baseline. If your baseline is Windows 10, it might not be vulnerable. But once you start installing those huge packages, then you are introducing vulnerabilities into your system. So I would always recommend to run those packages not in Kodachi, not in Windows, but on separate dedicated virtual machine.
Did you have in the past the situation when the Kodachi user committed a cyber crime and the police or the special services asked for a cooperation to find this person?
Well, I've never been in such situation, and I don't want to be in such situation anytime soon. But my word here to say again, which is already mentioned on the Kodachi website, Kodachi is to protect your privacy and your security, enhance your security. Kodachi is not meant there to be for criminals. So if you are a criminal or against the law, stay away from Kodachi. Use anything else but not Kodachi.
If we talk about phones, which one would you recommend for people who care about privacy, Apple or Android? Can you please share your experience and opinion on both? Perhaps you can advise something exotic like Librem.
Well, for me, my personal opinion, I used to like and trust iPhone and iOS, honestly. But after Steve Jobs passed away, I think things have changed from what I've seen on the media. So I totally shifted to Android. I'm more like, if you compare between the two, I would say definitely now go for Android, where on the past it was iOS. But if you need to use a phone as for sensitive tasks, I wouldn't use neither iOS or Android. I would use, there's a couple of them. One of them is Librem 5, there's Silent Phone, there's Siren Labs, there's Bitium, there's Wolaphone. Those are all known to be secure phones. And for me, if I really want to go to shift to a secure phone, I would go for Ubuntu phone or Librem 5, where I can, because Librem 5 is having their own pure OS, which is based on Debian. But they're doing a good job when it comes to hardware, but when it comes to software, it's really bad. So what I would do, I would combine both. I would take the hardware of Librem 5 or Ubuntu phone and embed Kodachi on top of it. So you can have both, balance hardware security and operating system security.
If I use, for example, Ubuntu on host machine and Kodachi on VMware, in case of opening a file with the malware on virtual machine, is it a real risk that malware will escape from the virtual machine to the host?
If you're using VMware, I'm talking about the virtual machine, VMware virtual machine, which is well known and well tested. If it's outdated, yes, there's a chance. Because previously I've seen incidents where malware leaked. And the best practice to use virtual machines is disable whatever you don't need. If you don't need audio on that virtual machine, just disable the driver. You don't need a mic, disable it. You don't need sharing, disable sharing. You don't need clipboard, disable clipboard. That would, even if there is a flaw within those utilities, you won't be vulnerable. So malware won't escape. So the answer, to be clear, always take these precautions, and you can always, lock down the malware within the VM. But if you don't take those precautions and there is a 0 day, which is not known, of course, there is a chance of leaking.
Does it make sense to combine Kodachi and Unix gateway on VM? The logic behind is that compromised Kodachi can disclose a real IP address.
Yes, I would, to some extent, yes, but you can do that with Windows as well. You don't have to do it with Unix. But if you do it with Unix, yes, I would say it's better to have it that way. The reason is if you make a mistake, it's always better to have 3 layers of security, and whether with Unix or without Unix. So if I'm using Windows at the moment, if my host is Windows, I wouldn't have Kodachi running on my virtual machine with a VPN and Tor, and my Windows is directly connected to the ISP. That's a big mistake, because even though I have on Kodachi a firewall rules not to leak IPs if you get disconnected, but I would still not trust it. I would always rely on my Windows VPN and the Kodachi VPN, and also I would have the 3rd layer, which is my router. My router would have a built-in VPN. So if these two mess, Microsoft messes and Warith messes, my router would have my back and save me.
Are you planning in the future to separate machines, making, for example, Kodachi Workstation and Kodachi Gateway in order to harden the security model?
Not really, because there's many gateway utilities available there on the net, and I'm not the person who likes to reinvent the wheel. So I would utilize whatever is existing. But future plans for Kodachi is maybe one of the ideas was having Kodachi server, where you have a fully command line, fully anonymous. That's one of the roadmaps that I'm having. And the other plan is to have a Kodachi phone, where you have a secure hardware and a secure operating system embedded with it.
Do you trust Tor network, or right now it's better to move on with the I2P?
Well, again, I don't trust anyone, but I like to use Tor. I'm more into Tor, so but I wouldn't rely on it as a single point of security. So I would always use something on top of it. But I do, if I combine it with other security tools, yes, I trust them. But using it as its own, no, I don't trust them.
I know that you quite well understand what is the cryptocurrency, which ones you believe the most in terms of the long-term investments. For example, BTC, Ethereum, Litecoin, Monero, and some other popular coins. What do you think?
That's more like investment topic. Okay. Well, yes, I'm into cryptocurrency and I've been there for a while. And for me, I'm like a fan of three coins. I used to buy everything during 2017 when there was a boom. So I had, you name it and I have it. But then I sold everything because you get matured and you get to understand how it works and you get to understand what's behind the technology. So now for the perfect answer would be my opinion. I don't recommend anyone to invest on those, but this is my personal opinion. BTC number one and Decred. That's for investment. BTC, Bitcoin, and Decred. For privacy, I would recommend Monero definitely.
How about Zcash?
Well, I used to own Zcash, but comparing it with Monero, I really believe on Monero technology more than the Zcash. They had flaws previously, though they were fixed. They fixed them now, but I still believe more on Monero. It's much more matured, and the technology behind Monero is much more advanced for me. I'm like, excited to see how they work compared to Zcash. But both are good. Both are good.
There was actually a bad story with the Coinomi some time ago. Coinomi, as I understand, is a multi-asset web wallet. And from one of your videos on your YouTube channel, I understood that there was a problem with this service, that they kept actually the user's passphrase in plain text. And they, I think, shared this passphrase with a third-party server. As a result, your passphrase was compromised and it was about 70K of the cryptocurrency loss. So how this story actually ended, and what do you think about itself, the concept of the storing the cryptocurrencies, for example, on Coinomi and other services?
Well, that was a very expensive lesson for me to learn. Is never trust multiple wallets. Never trust them. And the problem is they are not only online web wallets. They also have a desktop version of it. And I use the desktop version of it, which it had a flow, sending clear text to Google. And when I confronted them with this, they were really, upset about it, and they tried to reject me and fight me back. But at the end, this never ended. I had to learn another lesson, which let go and forget about it.
Would you recommend to keep cryptocurrency on digital asset trading platforms such as Poloniex, or you strongly recommend holding investments in cryptocurrency on special hardware wallets like Trezor or Ledger?
I would never keep my cryptocurrency on exchanges, and never do that. Never do that. Use exchanges only to obtain your cryptocurrencies. So if you have BTC and you want Ethereum or whatever, so go there, exchange, and get out from there. Never leave your crypto into exchanges, even though like some of the exchanges would state that they have hot wallets and cold wallets. I would not trust them. Always move your wallets Uh, Personally, yes, they say hardware wallets like Ledger and all, they're secure, but I wouldn't trust them as well. I don't store my crypto into cold wallets. I store them into virtual machines and specific wallets I use, which I know what's inside the code. It was an expensive lesson with Coinomy, so I made sure to pick the right wallets, never keep them online. The VMs that I'm storing those wallets are isolated. So for BTC, it's isolated from Monero, and they're always offline. The VM itself, it's encrypted. So it goes online only if I decrypt it and I decide for it to go online. So that's my best practice. For some people, they say, no, it's better to always have it on cold wallets or use the hardware wallets. But I don't trust the chips. You can have anything embedded on the chips. They can have their own Wi-Fi, their own Bluetooth, whatever, and send your keys, private keys to any vendor. So I wouldn't do that mistake again.
In use more and more, I hear about Monero coin. Is it really anonymous cryptocurrency in your opinion, or it can be traced easily like Bitcoin?
Well, Monero, it depends how you use it. Monero was built to be anonymous. This is what they claim, and this is what their technology says. But would I rely on that 100%? No. It's much better than BTC. BTC is totally transparent. You can trace anyone, what they've bought and this. But Monero, it depends how you use it, because you can hide your transaction to some extent, but your IP can leak. So it depends where do you run it. Is it anonymous environment or just a normal Windows environment? So it all depends on the layers around the wallet. I wouldn't use the web wallet. I would always use, as a wallet for Monero, I would always use my Monero and put it on a virtual machine where it is fully anonymous, because if someone is tracing me and they're not able to trace the transactions because of the security and anonymity of Monero, they can yet still trace my IP. So, and also there's another lesson to be learned. What are you buying with Monero? So you might be fully anonymous, fully secure, no one can trace you back, but you went and bought, let's say, a luxury car from BMW. So agencies can always go back to those commercial vendors and ask, okay, from this date to this date, who spent this amount of Monero? Let's say 100K. Oh, it's just this, Warith spent that. It wasn't leaked from Monero. It was you not being wise on how to spend Monero.
I saw on online shop I can buy Kodachi laptop. What is it and how different is it from other laptops, for example, Lenovo?
Well, myself, I saw that. It's called, I think, Kodachi Walk, and I think it's based in Europe. I was really impressed when I saw that. The way they made it is, I think, they took their own brand of a laptop and embedded Kodachi into it. The idea is impressive, and it's kind of what I was thinking of. But my plan was to have even the laptop to be hardware secure, something like Librem, what they do. But they went step ahead and did it. Commercially, it's illegal what they did, because I have it on my license that they are not supposed to do it without getting back to me. So they never took the permission from me, but it's kind of make me happy that someone is believing on an operating system that I developed.
If we talk about Windows 10, do you know the best practice on how to harden the security model of this OS and remove telemetry, for example, maximum as possible?
Yeah, there's a lot of rumors when it comes to Windows 10 that it leaks a lot of information. Actually, they're not rumors, they are facts. They've been proven. But what applies on Windows 10 applies on Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8. It applies on all Microsoft products. Never use Microsoft products out of the box. Always you have to harden them. You have to disable all the services that they come enabled by default. Whatever you don't need, you have to disable. They are third-party utilities. If you're not at that advanced and you don't know how to disable those services, you can always rely on third-party utilities. They will automate this process for you. And you should always have your own utilities on top of it. So if you ask me, well, would you use Windows firewall? No, I wouldn't use Windows firewall, but I would use something better than Windows firewall. Would you use BitLocker for encryption? I wouldn't use BitLocker for encryption. They try to show us that we can rely on their security, but for me, as a paranoid user, I would always have my own pick on the tools that I want to protect me.
Zoom has certain problems with the security. Does it make sense to use sandboxing, for example, to isolate the work in order to minimize the risk of being hacked? Is there any convincing alternative to the Zoom?
For us, currently, we are using Zoom to record this. And I wouldn't say it's bad because I'm using it now. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're having a conference where you know this conference is so sensitive for you and you don't want this data to be leaked, I wouldn't never use Zoom. I would never use Skype. I would use something that has end-to-end encryption, and something like Jitsi meeting is a very good alternative when you have sensitive conferences. An alternative of Zoom, like for normal video conferences, is Demio. Demio is a well-known video conferences utility that you can rely on. And Zoom can be used for routine, normal meetings, online meetings. It does a pretty good job, but security-wise, it's very bad.
My favorite question on messengers. If we talk about Threema, Briar, Telegram, Signal, Riot, Wire, which one do you think is the best and secure and also private, and why?
Okay, well, I always do research on this because Messenger is very sensitive for me. So, like, my top number one is Threema. I love Threema. I trust the people who are behind it. I trust the technology. I trust their white paper. I love the way they made it that you can buy it via cryptocurrency and be fully anonymous. But overall, there's two things which I hope they fix them. It's closed source, it's not open source. Yeah, so I really love Threema, but they have two disadvantages. And one of them is you have to have your phone or your email. You're not fully anonymous. Of course, you can use fake emails, but I would love to have something that doesn't require you to have a phone or email as mandatory option. That's this disadvantage number one. Disadvantage number two is it's been closed source for a while. I think it's time for them to let people know what is written behind the scene. If they did this, I think it will be the perfect solution. Now, if you ask me, okay, what is after Threema? The second one on my list is actually a tough competitor to Threema. It is free. They don't require you to have your phone, your email. It's open source. I mean, you name it and they have it. I really love this product. I recently found it from a user of Kodachi community. It's called Session Messenger. Session Messenger. The only thing which is I see as a disadvantage of this utility at the moment, it hasn't been audited. And I think soon it will be audited and it will have all the things that Threema doesn't have at the moment, which is being open source and being audited, and it's free version. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to provide your email or your phone. So as I said, my top messenger is Threema now, and Session Messenger. After it gets audited, it will be the first. After that, you have Weka, you have Wire, and you have Signal. I trust all of these. And I wouldn't rely on one. It depends on whom I'm talking with. Some of them I would give them my Threema ID. Some of them I would ship them to Weka if they're temporary. I would ship them to Wire. Or if it's really sensitive, I would even not use Threema. I would use a Session Messenger.
In your opinion, Jabber or XMPP is still the best option for the private conversations?
No, those are old school and outdated. I wouldn't use them for security or privacy.
VeraCrypt, is it safe to use? There are some gossips that entropy in the new versions was weakened. So do you trust to this project?
I do trust them. I love VeraCrypt, and it was based on TrueCrypt, as you know. It's open source, and I like the idea. They came with a concept that no one came before, with multiple algorithms when it comes to encryptions. They can encrypt your operating system, but I would still not fully rely on them. So you can, if you have something which is really sensitive, I would have another layer of security on top of it. So you can use VeraCrypt to encrypt a container, but inside the container you can have PGP encryption. That would give you more confident that if there is a backdoor on VeraCrypt, there is another layer of security on top.
One of your recommendations on best anonymity results when using Kodachi OS to use quite interesting models. So one is ISP, Linux Kodachi VPN with firewall forced to VPN traffic. And then you have a Torified system. And on top of that, you have a Tor browser, for example, with a double Tor. And then you have also a Tor DNS. Could you please comment why double Tor and Tor DNS is very important, do you think?
Tor DNS, because you're not relying on specific vendors, because when it comes to Tor DNS, it randomly picks a node, an exit node from the crowd, so no one can target you from the other end. While if you use some of the centralized DNS, well, they will provide you with encryption and all, but they can easily be forced by agencies to reveal data. That's why I'm more into Tor DNS. When it comes to answer your question regarding having double Tor, it's not like you will increase the security. No, the idea is having Torified will give you maybe, let's see, 3 nodes, then the exit node. And if you have Tor on top of it, there'll be another 3 circuits from Tor. So the total will be like 6. Instead of having 3 circuits, you will have 6. It will make it harder for someone to get back to you, because the chain got longer, you know. So instead of using 3 circuits or 4 circuits, let's use double of that number.
And why a Tor project then recommends not using double Tor?
It depends how they're doing it, because if I don't know what they mean by double Tor here. Maybe they mean having a host with a Tor and a VM with another Tor. That I would call a double Tor. But in my case, in Kodachi, it's totally different concept. You are Torifying everything. The entire packets which are leaving your operating system are behind Tor. Then on top of it, you are building another Tor circuits. And that's a totally different concept from double Tor, which I think they're not recommending.
You have Kodachi browser. What is it, and what is it based on? What is its purpose for? Anonymity, privacy, for example.
Okay, Kodachi browser is a normal Firefox browser that was enhanced in order to perform better. So when it comes to security and privacy, I wouldn't use normal Firefox on Kodachi. I would rather use Linux Kodachi browser, because it has certain number of plugins and certain number of configuration that by default might leak your IP, might crack you back. So for me, I think I'm having 3 or 4 versions of Kodachi over there. There's the light one, where it's for someone who really cares about privacy, but he's not paranoid. So you have certain amount of plugins there. When you launch it, it will automatically use your VPN IP. While if you use the loaded Kodachi browser, the second version, you will have more plugins, you will have more sophisticated configuration, plus it won't be based on your VPN. Once you launch it, it will automatically connect through your Tor. So the first one will reveal your VPN IP. The second loaded browser would reveal your Tor IP, which is much better.
In Russia, we have quite ambiguous attitude towards the browser called Lincoln Sphere. It's designed for the anonymity and spoofing the fingerprints. You, as professional person who checks what should be implemented in the distro, can you say, is it trustful despite it's not open sourced?
Well, again, to answer this question, I trust it to some extent. It depends what you need to do with it. I'm having it there on Kodachi because it's Russian, first of all. I know they are paranoid about security, so they would definitely do a good job on it. Do I fully trust it? No, I don't fully trust it, but it has some features that you don't get on Tor browser and Firefox. That's why I'm having it there.
Cloudflare is everywhere. Can you please recommend the best secure and no logging DNS as an alternative?
Alternative to Cloudflare?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I wouldn't use Cloudflare. I would always use, my first recommendation would be Tor DNS. My second recommendation is DNS Crypt. Within DNS Crypt, it's not only one server. I'm having it there with multiple servers. It picks randomly a server and it goes to it. Again, you are limited with the number of servers it connects to. So if you ask me between Tor and DNS Crypt, both are encrypted, both are safe, but one can be targeted, the other one cannot be targeted because it's totally randomly unless you have your own servers configured. And the third option would be Malware. If you open Kodachi, which we are going to see later, and you click on the DNS menu on the bottom, those icons are ranked based on the security. So Tor comes first, DNS, then DNS Crypt, then Malware. Whatever comes after that is also secure, but Malware will be much better than what comes next.
There were some changes in the last version of the Kodachi. Can you please tell me what is USB kill and USB guard in Kodachi since 7.0 release?
Okay, those are features that were requested by the community, and I really love them. They're very nice. USB kill is awesome. The way it works, if we have a normal USB like this, and you plug it in and you switch on USB kill, what it does, it reads all your hardware IDs. And this will be among them, this will be plugged in. So it will get the ID of this USB. What you are asking USB kill by launching it is if there is any changes of my hardware while this program is on, wipe my PC and shut down. So if you are in a country that you are so, caution about someone coming, suddenly and asking you, give me your laptop. All you have to do is remove this flash memory. It will wipe and shut down. That's USB kill. Now, USB guard is something else. USB guard, you have some malware where they auto run when you set the flash memory or any hardware device. So the purpose of USB guard is to protect your USB inputs. So if I insert this USB into Kodachi, it will pop up and ask me, I'm having a new USB with this ID. Do you want to allow it or not? If I don't allow it, it will never allow it to be recognized by the operating system. And I also can choose to ban. So if I know this is malicious, I can permanently ban with the USB guard.
Mm-hmm. Does Kodachi have RAM erase after the shutdown like Tails? If yes, did you write this script yourself or took it from the GitHub project?
I remember having, of course, I have manual RAM wiper on Kodachi. That's 100% is there, and we will see it later. But on shutdown, I had it. Do I still have it? I honestly don't remember. That's part one of the question. Part two of the question, did I get it from GitHub? No, I did not get it from GitHub because Linux provides you with a RAM wiper. So it's just a package you need to install, and you have the capability of wiping your RAM.
For BTC transactions, one of the great wallets is Electrum. What can you recommend for Monero and Zcash? Is it implemented in Kodachi?
Yeah, for Electrum, it's already there on Kodachi. For Monero, I recommend my Monero wallets. and it's there available on the web. You can download it. Use the desktop version, not the web version, and it's already there on Kodach as well. So those two wallets, you already have them. When it comes to Zcash, you can use Zelcore. I love Zelcore. It's a multiple cryptocurrency wallet storage, but it's different from the others because it authenticates you before you log in. While everyone else that I use, all you have to do is launch the wallet and you are in and you can do transaction. But with this, you have to be authenticated before you are able to do any transaction or even see your wallets. That's why I recommend Zelcore for Zcash.
Interesting. Why did you delete VLC video player from Kodachi?
Okay, well, it was there for a while, and then I had to delete it because it wasn't running on live mode. So if you would install Kodachi, it would run, but if you run it on live mode, it wouldn't run. So I found an alternative, which is lighter when it comes to size, and it does better job. So I said, why not? I got rid of VLC and replaced it with another package.
Let's talk about some important extensions that we can use for the everyday. Why did you substitute uBlock for Nano ad blocker and also extension CSS exfil protection? Is there a real risk of such attack? The author has a license for this extension under MIT X1. Is it trustful in your opinion?
Okay, I've substituted some of plugins with others for a couple of reasons. For some, I found better alternatives. For some, there were redundancy. So I had 3-4 plugins doing the same job. So you're introducing overload into the browser. So I said, okay, let me get rid of all of them and I have the one that has the most features. That's why I picked. But for users who want to get a clear technical answer, if you go to GitHub, and there's a GitHub, you'll find Kodachi project there. Go into issues. One of the issues was dedicated for this Kodachi plugins. I had very valuable inputs from one of the users, and he's much better than me. I think she is much better than me when it comes to plugins. So she gave me a proper study, and based on that, we had a debate. Of course, I said this one is better. She said no, this one is better. So whoever won was the final decision, and I came up with this one. The second part of your question, whether to trust that with that license or not, I don't see it as a concern for me, honestly. I don't see it as a concern. I can trust it. I don't think, like all days I would be concerned because Firefox wouldn't audit even the plugins. But nowadays, Firefox themselves, they do not allow any plugin to be on their store unless it's been audited. This is what I know. So I don't have a concern with that.
Why did you delete Privacy Badger and Privacy Possum? Don't you trust Electronic Frontier Foundation?
No, that wasn't the reason. I do trust them. They're doing a good job, honestly. But I found a better alternative. That's why I wanted to not have redundant plugins doing the same job. So I decided to have one, and I think the one which is there is the best for the time being. But in future releases, you might see that I got them back because they did better job maybe. So who knows? But yes, I trust them.
What do you plan to add in the future releases of the Kodachi?
Well, for now, the only thing I'm planning to have, because I'm trying to save the size, reduce the size of the ISO, is getting bigger every day, as you can see. So I wouldn't really add anything unless it's really mandatory to have, and it's a big demand from the community. My plan now is to have session messenger. That one of the things that I'm going to add, and it will be, I might remove one of the messengers which is currently there. By the way, when you ask me a question of best messengers, I forgot to mention Riot, right? Riot, yeah. Mm-hmm. I really believe on this Matrix project. Mm-hmm. I really love it, but it's not user friendly. For me, I myself, you can see myself, I couldn't use it. So if you pass it to someone, they would like, no, I would rather use WhatsApp. So to avoid that, stick with Session Messenger or Freema. Yes, so the only thing which I'm planning to have for the time being is Session Messenger, but there'll be bugs fixes on the next release. There'll be kernel update as well, and there'll be improvements on some of the code that I realized that I had a mistake on. It's nothing to do with security. It's all about performance so far. Yeah, that's it.
Can you please tell me how Kodachi has been evolved over time? I think it's interesting to know the pathway of this project.
Yeah, well, Kodachi, I started Kodachi in 2013 with version 1.0, and luckily I'm still having some of the old versions, the ISOs. I can take you through them if you allow me to share the screen for users to see. Okay, this is like for users who are watching now, this is actually Kodachi 1.1. And you can see how bad it was, you know, it was really simple, and like I did not have all these fancy security tools. The VPN, it wasn't optional, you know, you had it here with one option, you couldn't change the vendors. I had some cloud storage. This how Kodachi initially started. This was the project, and oh, I had VPN. Yeah, it was here. Okay. I also myself forgot how it worked. This was the Tor. You could see basic Tor countries for the exit nodes. DNS, it was really limited to DNS script, and as you can see, Swiss Privacy Foundation, Google, and Komodo. That was 1.1. I don't have 1.0, but I don't think it was a much. There was a much changes from 1.0 to 1.1. So this is how Kodachi started. Then we moved to 2.0. You can see with 2.0. Let me unlock this. This is how I had. You can see 2.0, I shifted the menus from top to the bottom. And this is how it looked like with 2.0. 3.0, I had, okay, most of the sessions are locked because it's been a while since I logged in. Okay. You can see the conky started to change. On 3.0, I had better conky, and I had different browsers. That's what I remember. I had security apps. Electrum was there. Okay, interesting. So Electrum was there from the beginning, and DNS was still limited. You can see there's only few options compared to what we have. This is the panic room. If I show you the current release of the panic room, it has a lot of way more features than the current one, and it kept evolving. This is 4.0. As you can see, even the login is different. I was trying to improve the login. And this is how 4.0 looked like. You can see. I don't know where is the bottom menu. You know, it's buggy. It's old and it's buggy. But at that time, it was fancy. You know, those days 4.0. Then we evolved to 5.0. 5.0, we had a neat conky, as you can see. It was still in orange. The bottom menu started to change as well, and we had more options, as you can see, on Tor, few more on DNX, few more security tools. The menus were changed, as you can see here. The menu were changed. I had dedicated security menu for all security tools. And of course, the panic was starting to grow. As you can see, there's more tools on the panic. Then, of course, there's a lot of. I'm only showing the changes on the GUI, but when it comes to the code, there's massive changes to what you have seen now with the current version. So this is the code of the old versions. You can see it was all text files, and that's boring way of coding, I call it. So this has all stopped, changed, totally changed. But if you want to see the old code, is always there, and you can go and see. As you can see, we had 68 files, and this was 5.0. 6.0, you can see went to greenish little bit to match with the theme. And I started to have more tools, you know. Even the ISO became slightly big because I had much more software embedded on 6.0. And then I stopped for almost, I think from 6.2 or 6.3, I had a break of 9 months. And honestly, some of the people thought I gave up on the project. They came on Discord and said, okay, this, and some of them were from Tails, honestly. And they were happy, you know, that Kodachi is dead. And after 9 months, and the reason being, I mean, for me not developing Kodachi at that time, because I was a full-time investor, so I had a lot of time to do my own research and development. Then I had a full-time job, and I couldn't put enough time into Kodachi, and sorry for that. But now I'm back, and you have 7.1. As you can see, 7.1 is not only the GUI here, it's a totally revolution when it comes to coding, because I honestly changed every single script. It took me a while to do that, but at the end, the performance is almost like what I was hoping to have in Kodachi one day. The performance is much more, way better than 1.0. If you run HTOP on 1.0, you see the CPU is like overkill. But here with the 7.2, the CPU, as you can see here, is very stable. Memory is very stable. The connection is very stable. I've centralized all the scripts. You can see I don't have text file. Those are all shell scripts. I don't rely on text files when it comes to settings. I save everything on JSON file, which is much way better to do it. As you can see, this whatever you see here on the Conti is actually here. It's much more better to do it this way. It becomes more stable and more CPU and more resources. Less resources hungry when it comes to resources utilization. So this was the evolution of Kodachi from 2013 until today, which is 2020. As you can see, the changes were massive. A lot of things were changed. I myself don't believe that one day I was this bad, you know. For me, this is really bad. But at that time, this was, you know, for me, it looked really good. But now I would never use this operating system myself. I would really stick to 7.1. Yeah, that's, I think, I hope I covered your question.
And I have a last question. Are you planning to make new videos on your YouTube channel? I find it personally fantastic and so interesting in terms of the education and gaining the new knowledge.
Shortly, I don't think so, because I have a full-time job, which makes my time really tight. I would love to share the knowledge and the experience from time to time, but I don't promise anything soon. But if I have the time, you'll see a few videos from me, either related to Kodachi or general security knowledge.
Can you please give a demo on how to use Kodachi?
Yeah, sure. This is Kodachi, the latest version, 7.1 at the moment. Honestly, it's been a while since I gave my last Kodachi demonstration. It was on 5.6, if I'm not mistaken. It was 5.6. So it's been a while since I had a video on how to use Kodachi. So I think users will be keen to understand the new changes and bug fixes during those versions from 5.6 to 7.2. Okay, to start with, Kodachi is a Linux operating system. It's based on Xubuntu, and it's not based on the entire Xubuntu operating system. What I'm doing, actually, I'm getting the minimum ISO file, which is almost, I think, 35 MB, something like that. You get that ISO, then you build on it. So Kodachi actually was built from, I wouldn't call it scratch, but semi-scratch. The minimum file was 35 MB, and you had to download all the drivers, all the packages, until you end up with the operating system, which looks like this. So where can you use Kodachi? Kodachi can be used on a normal PC, so you can permanently install it on your PC. You can run it as, so if you're traveling, you need to take a notebook, but you don't want people to know that you're using Kodachi. You can have it on a flash memory, and it will boot up as a live mode where it doesn't store anything. Within the boot up of Kodachi, there's always multiple options. There's option where you have everything, even the files you opened will be totally running on RAM, and it's called the forensic mode. There's multiple modes that you can use on Kodachi boot up. That's one way of using it, beside from installing it on a laptop or a PC permanently. The third way of using it is using it on a VMware, a virtual machine, where you have your baseline, your host machine as Windows 10 maybe, or Windows 7, or maybe Linux Mint, but you need to use Kodachi on top of it. The best way to do it, I recommend, is using VMware. And as you can see now here, I'm having VMware, and I'm running like more than 8 operating systems without a problem. So one of them is the Kodachi Live, and over here you can differentiate between this one and this one. This is installed, so I don't have installation icons. They've disappeared because this is installed. And if you come here, you can say it says installed. One of the options here says OS Live, it says no. While if you come on this one, OS Live is yes. So this is live, and you can still install Kodachi. So if you run it on a USB mode, after burning it into a USB, you'll have those installation icons, and you can install it anytime. Once you install it on your host machine, it would look like this. What I personally recommend, before messing up with your current system, with your current Windows, always run Kodachi either as live on USB flash memory, or I prefer myself running it on VMware, where you can test it, install it, make sure you get it perfectly installed. Then you shift into your host if you need to have Kodachi as your daily use operating system. So let's go to the features. This is how Kodachi looks. Over here you have the notification icons. Over here you have the normal menu with all the programs. If you ask me, will this menu, if I use this menu, can I get rid of this? No, because almost 70% of the Kodachi scripts are hidden here. They're somewhere here. You have to go through them to find them. So all panic room options and programs and scripts, they're not available on the start menu. So over here you get the normal Ubuntu softwares, and over here you get the custom Kodachi scripts. So you have to differentiate between the two. Can I have whatever is here in here? Yes, some of them are already here. So for example, if I need anything to do with graphic, I can see there's graphic software here, and you can find the same on other apps. They're all here available. So you can see there's graphic software over here. Okay. We have a security category where you have all the security related softwares, and over here you can launch a couple of browsers. I will explain them later. Over here you have different type of terminals, and you can see your folders, directories. If you have a messed up desktop, let's say like this, and you need to arrange it, you just click on this and it auto arranges. Over here you can see your disk and storage. Okay. On the right side, as you can see over here, I have the COM key, which explains the CPU usage. This is the CPU. It tells me, okay, why this is important. This is important if you have a SCADA script which is running and you haven't authorized it, and let's say I'm having a miner. Like a lot of people are asking, how are you making money out of this? You have mining scripts there. I don't have mining scripts there. I don't have at all. You can always audit the operating system. It's free of backdoors. I guarantee you it's free of minings. But to make it easier for user to identify there's a miner, you will always see here, because mining scripts will always take high CPU usage, and it will always be one of the top list. Of course, this is just a shortcut of a normal HTOP. So instead of normal user that doesn't know how to run HTOP, he can easily figure out what is eating his CPU resources. And he can easily identify what is killing his memory. If there's a program which is heavily using his RAM, he can identify it over here. If there's a program which is constantly writing on the disk, you can easily identify it here. It will tell you that the disk rate is very high over here. Of course, if you see on the right corner over here, you can always tell if there is a disk usage. High disk usage, it will always tell you over here.
I have a question. When you install Kodachi, straight after the installation, what you have to do next? Should you go to the command line and update your system? Are there any things you have to prepare before you start normal work?
Yes, definitely. It all depends when did you download Kodachi. So if you downloaded Kodachi today and the release was 2 days ago, you don't have to do the updates. You can straightforward use it from out of the box. But if the release date, there's a big gap between the release date and you using Kodachi, of course, you have to update the packages with a simple line. And it depends what you are going to use. Some of the tools you need to update manually, like Tor browser. If you click on Tor browser and there's a new update, it will always have an alert asking you to update. So yes, I recommend whenever you use Kodachi, always update it. For live users, it's a bit of hassle because you update and you lose your updates. But for people who install Kodachi, those updates will be permanent. And also, I have also many questions regarding the updates. When it comes to a new release, can I do like sudo apt update? Will it update Kodachi? It will only update the Ubuntu packages. It won't update the Kodachi scripts. So in order for you to get the later release with latest scripts of Kodachi, you have to get the ISO whenever there is a new release. Okay, so we are done with the menus over here. Over here, as I said, you can install Kodachi online and offline. Why did I have two options? Why offline and online? Because some people don't want other packages to be downloaded during installation. Sometimes, the operating system will hang. So with install Kodachi, I made a custom script that it will cut off your internet and disable VPN and everything and make sure that all the packages that have been installed are actually being installed from the CD or from the ISO, not from the internet. And those, of course, those packages have been verified by PGP signatures. If you don't trust the sources that you are getting the online packages from, you can always use the offline. For myself, I normally use the offline, I don't use the online. During the installation, you can always encrypt your operating system. Now, people tell me, you always advise to use the live, not installed. Yes, because the main purpose for Kodachi was to be anti-forensic operating system. Now, if you install, you're not anti-forensic anymore. You lost that feature. Therefore, you will lose your score here. If you see your score, you will definitely lose it. If you compare the live, I have 65, and if I come to install, I have 67 because I have something else running. That's why I have higher score. So as I said, it's always recommended to have a live because the main purpose of this distribution was to have it as anti-forensic. But if you install it, you lose that feature and you lose the score. We have a security scheme for scoring, and you can see a grade. And of course, you'll be losing your score whenever you install Kodachi. But is there a way, Warith, to have it installed and yet to be secure? Yes. Whenever you install, make sure you have it installed as encrypted. Always encrypt your main operating system, and that wouldn't make it anti-forensic, because if you are forced to reveal your password, they will still be able to get all your history and your browsing, whatever you've been doing. So can you add another layer of security on top of encryption? Add this encryption. Yes, there's a feature called nuke, which we'll see it later. And when you're forced to reveal your operating system, like, okay, Warith, you have to type your password and let us see what's inside. Instead of me typing Warith 2020, I would have my secret code and it will be Warith 2021. Automatically, Kodachi will recognize that that was a trigger to destroy the encryption headers. It will destroy itself and there is no way for them to see what is in Kodachi, or for me even to get back again. It will totally destroy the headers. Of course, you can, during the nuke feature, you are always requested to save. It will automatically give you an option to store your encryption headers, so you can keep your encryption. So if you're traveling and you had nuke feature on installed Kodachi, and you had to reveal your password in another country, all you have to do is type the security password that you want to trigger nuke on. Then when you come back home, you can always restore the header and get everything back. But while you're there, it's impossible to get your data back. So now let's move on with the COM key. As you can see, the second column over here, the second one gives you your privacy and security information. So it will tell you whether you're online or not. It will give you the BTC price, so you don't have to go and check an exchange for BTC price or XMR price. XMR is for Monero. And why I have these 2 coins here? Because I believe on them. This is the top investment coin that I believe on. And this is the best security and privacy crypto that I believe in. So that's why I'm having those 2. I cannot have all of them because I don't have space, so I'm having the most 2 that I like. And when it comes to interface, it will tell you which interface you're currently on. So 10.0 is for the VPN, and it will give you the gateway, your MAC address. Of course, you can change your MAC address. You have IP source and domain. So here it tells me my IP source is other, it's not DG77. What does that mean? It means this IP and this IP, and the third one and the fourth one, which will show you if you're verifying your system over here, they're all being retrieved from this website. So they're not being retrieved from DG77.com. And that's how to make, I mean, I'm trying to minimize the relying on single points of source information. So if DG77 fails one day, you still can get your IP addresses from those websites. Of course, there's a way to change the source of this. I will show you later. I was talking about my IP, but then you can hide my IP. You can just blur it. It's this one, the ISP IP. Okay, over here you'll be seeing your ISP IP, and after that you'll be seeing anything related with your VPN connection. At the moment I'm connected through VPN connection of Kodachi. So the IP is here, it tells me the country, the port, the protocol, whether it's secure or status or not. It also tells me the speed between my node and the VPN, the bandwidth. Okay, this is very critical. People always get banned, and they get banned because they misuse the bandwidth. Because I cannot afford to serve 10 GB for everyone, I mean, around the globe. I don't have that budget. So please try not to misuse the bandwidth. If you need to download something, just disconnect VPN and then download it, or use some other vendors if you really have to download something within the VPN connection. So 2 to 3 GB is acceptable. Anything above that is not acceptable and you might get banned. They store information connection. So you get the IP of the Tor, the country, and it tells you whether can Tor run without a VPN or with VPN. Is the operating system Torified or not? Torified means all packets will go through Tor. Nothing is allowed via VPN or via ISP. What is the DNS currently used is DNS encryption, which is the default of the DNS scripts. And we have the operating system status, the hardware status. What does this tell you? If Kodachi one day dies, you see this here as offline or dead, whatever. If you get banned, hardware ID will be banned. You see it in red over here, or it will tell you banned. So you know already that you got banned because of misuse of the bandwidth. BTC donation, whoever donates for the Kodachi project, you will immediately see the donations over here, and you don't have to go and visit any website. Everything is displayed over here. Versions, it will tell you the current and the latest. If you have different version, there is an update. It will always alert you with red. How is the operating system booted? Is it via BIOS legacy or via UEFI? So if you come here, this is the UEFI. You can see it's different on the installed one. On the live one, it's legacy. And whether it's live or not, yes, it's live. Is it encrypted? No. On installed one, it's encrypted. So you can say, it's say, oh, it's encrypted, yes. Over here, I can use nuke feature because I have it installed and encrypted. Over here, I cannot run the nuke feature. Auto login, printer caps, USB guard, if you have it on, it will tell you USB key if it's on or not. Auto fonts. Auto fonts means if I change the display and I change the resolution, I don't want the fonts to be the same. Maybe I want them bigger. So it will automatically adjust the fonts for you to match the new resolution. So if you have it as yes, it will do it for you. If you have it as no, it won't do it for you. And you can play with that all in Panic Room. How many swaps you have at the moment? What is the font size? What is the script status? Script is the Kodachi engine, which is running on the back end. So it's very resource hungry. I try to minimize it as much as I can. But whenever you see a latency or something and you're hesitating whether it's you or Kodachi itself, you can check this. If it says run and the CPU is very high, it means that script is stuck somewhere. Okay, so this is the point of telling. Always it runs in 2 seconds and that's it. Server load, it will tell you DG77. So DG77 is hosting Kodachi, is hosting the VPNs scripts. So when there is a server load, you might have issues connecting to Kodachi VPN. So you can always tell, if you see the server load is 20 and above, it means there's something wrong with the server, and that's why you're having delays with the VPN. When it comes to security score, it will tell you how good you are in implementing the security. So anything you do here immediately will affect the score here. So if I have it installed, I will have a different score. If I'm using Torified, it will be better score than not having Torified. So the more you are secure, the higher your score will reach. And you can always test yourself instead of trying everything to reach the goal of 100 out of 100. You can always come here and click on this, and this will give you a security evaluation. It will check everything and tells you what exactly you're missing in order to reach 100 out of 100. Over here, it will be system information, how many files are open, threads, how long this operating system has been running, the screen resolution, the kernel version. Normally, all of this information you have to go and do command line in all operating systems. But in Kodachi, you can see most of the security and operating system related, resource related information is all in front of your face. You don't have to go and find it. Anything to do with the traffic is immediately displayed over here. Anything to do with ports, open ports, whatever has been open, you can always come and see it over here, whatever is open. Or you can see there's 2 IPs here with different ports. And if you come to the installed one, you can see there's different ports in this one. So this one will tell you if there's a backdoor. Of course, people can get really advanced and you won't see anything over here. But for normal people who might run malicious software in any operating system, you will definitely see the connection over here. Of course, if you need something advanced, you can go always to Panic Room and check the ports. It will definitely show you all the ports and it will keep refreshing.
Why do you choose protocol UDP instead of TCP?
Well, with OpenVPN, the UDP is always faster. So if you use TCP, the connection will be very, very slow compared to UDP. Because as UDP is sessionless, so that's why it's always faster when it comes to TCP/IP communication.
If a person uses hardly, for example, torrents, how do you find out that this particular person is using this VPN for such reasons like torrents, downloading and everything? Then you can ban him. So it means that in the way you have some kind of like not access, but you have understanding on who is this person. Or I misunderstand the concept. Can you please clarify it?
Well, yeah. I have the answer mentioned on the website, but I would also answer you here. What I have is the user ID. You can see here there's a hardware ID, and this is only a portion of it. If you want your full ID, you can always come here and click on system information, and I would say, like, show me my hardware ID, it will show you. But if I want it on a mouse pad, click this,
and it will show me my full ID. So this is the ID. What is Kodachi does? Initially, when you connect to Kodachi VPN, it will send me this ID. That's all it sends, this ID, and telling me this user is using this ID, not your name, not your email, nothing, just this ID. So I identify you by this ID. If this ID will mass download, or from the VPS providers, they come and complain, they say, okay, you have a mass download today, or someone has been doing something wrong, all I have to do is ban this IP. So what I'm doing technically, before I allow you to download Kodachi VPN config, I check whether your IP is being blacklisted or not. Sorry, not IP, your hardware ID is being blacklisted or not. If it's blacklisted, it will definitely immediately show you here that no, you cannot use Kodachi and you've been banned.
So the only one unique identifier you have is the hardware. That's the only.
Yes. And you can go to the scripts and see it while it's sent. It's like, okay, whoever wants to see and verify what I said, you can. If you come here to be always hidden, you click on press Control H, it will reveal the hidden files. All you have to do is go to Kbase and then look for the script system help. This is the heart of Kodachi. Like everything mainly is based on this script. It has all the main functionality. On this script, what I'm taking is your hardware ID. And as you can see, I'm not supposed to show this because some people, smart people, will try to bypass the ID check while they're downloading their stuff. But I can reveal how it's been done. Okay, get ID, here it is. So it's a very simple script. This is how I get the user ID. I'm just taking, like, your system UID, serial number, and everything. It has nothing to do with your IP. It has nothing to do with your identity, your email, your phone number, your location. All what is sent is all numbers. They're combined together. I think they're converted to MD5, and then they're sent to the server. And once they're sent to the server, they stay there. Now, if you ask me, is that the only thing you have? Yes, that's the only thing I have from Kodachi. But if you connect to VPN, any VPN, not only Kodachi, normally your ISP IP will be shown there because there's a TCP UDP connection going on. So that destination has to understand where the packet came from. So your real IP will be revealed on the VPS. That is with all VPN providers. And there where it comes where people say, we do not store your login, we do not collect your IP information or store it. Because there's no way you can use a VPN without revealing your ISP IP, unless you do what I've been saying all the way, is always have double layer. What is double layer of encryption? Have your router should have a VPN. Therefore, if you have your router pre-configured with another provider of VPN, when the Kodachi sends initial connection to Kodachi VPS, your ISP IP won't be revealed. The only IP will be revealed is the VPN of the router. The second layer is your host. If we come here and see my host, you can see here I'm using another VPN, which is a Windows. This is also developed by me and my colleague, and it has a VPN. So now if I lose my connection and my IP gets released, it won't reveal my ISP. It will reveal this IP because Kodachi is on top of this. So always have multiple layers of VPNs if you don't want to reveal your ISP IP, and that applies to all vendors. If I now connect to Malvad won't see my ISP. They will see the Stealth Walker IP, and Stealth Walker doesn't see my ISP. It will see the router VPN IP. It's a bit complicated, but that's the only way to be fully assured that your ISP IP is not leaked.
Which VPS do you trust for the Kodachi VPN? Where do you normally rent the servers? Whom do you trust?
Well, I trust Volta. I used to have them with DigitalOcean, and the reason I shifted to Volta because they first introduced cryptocurrency payment, which I really like. Of course, DigitalOcean have it now. DigitalOcean have limitation with the ports. They don't give you freedom when it comes to ports. I like to use normal standard ports like 443, as you can notice for Kodachi, because normally in enterprises they have limitation on ports that are allowed to connect outside the corporate. So that's why I went to Walter. And one of the main reasons to use Walter also that I haven't seen so far even with DigitalOcean is they allow you to upload your customizer of operating system. So tomorrow if I have Kodachi server, I don't need to run Ubuntu or Debian in Walter. I will run Kodachi server. And I'm pretty sure I will have it encrypted maybe, and no one can get access to it. That's the beauty of using Walter, and I do really trust them. So, okay, I think we've explained on how this Conky is working and what information is being shown to the user. Okay, on the bottom over here we have a simple menu where you can easily shut down or log out from your PC. You can see the status of your CPU. If you have two work environments, you can swap by scrolling the mouse or you can click. So actually now I'm moving, but you cannot notice it. But let's have this on, and if I swap, see on one it's not there, on two it's there. So you can have multiple windows scroller easily on here. If we move down to this menu, the first icon you can minimize the desktop. You can find any application. This is similar exactly to this one, so you don't have to go back here. If you click on this, you can have all the applications shown here. VPN menu is all to do with VPN. Now, when people get concerned about Kodachi, is it secure VPN? Can I trust Kodachi VPN? Don't trust Kodachi VPN. Don't trust Malware. Warith recommends to use your own. Just go here, edit your own VPN, get it from any VPS, configure it over there, and then put it over here and start. That's how simple it is to run your own VPN on Kodachi. If you want to be merged with the noise, and that's what I prefer. I don't like to have dedicated VPS only for Warith or for someone else. Why? Because you're easily targeted. They know this IP is related to this guy. But if you use Kodachi, where you have hundreds of users logging onto the same server, there's a lot of noise. They cannot differentiate who is who. That's the point. Of course, they can do to some extent if they have your ISP IP. Of course, they can do it, but you're making it harder for them to tell who is it. Of course, if you don't want to use free service, which is Kodachi, and you prefer a paid version, you can always use a couple of them, which are listed here. You have Malware, which I really like. I really use it personally. Sometimes on my baseline, I don't use Kodachi or Stealth. I use Malware. And I buy Malware with cryptocurrency. I don't buy it with PayPal. And I buy it with Monero, with, I know, mixing some exchanges, money laundering. It's not money laundering, it's cryptocurrency laundering. It's legal, by the way. At the end, I end up with a wallet is fully anonymous, and then I buy Malware VPN. With that, I'm pretty sure my identity is never revealed. If I want to be 100% anonymous, I can be 100% anonymous. But of course, having that, I'm using multiple layers of VPNs. With all those commercial ones, you can always update the nodes. So the nodes are always stored. If we go to home, all the nodes, the config of those commercial VPNs are stored here. So for Malware, you can see there's 293 files, but those were here since I released Kodachi 7.1. But if you want the latest ones, you will always have, because they get daily, there's a cron job on the server that grabs the files from these vendors, filter out UDP from TCP, and then put the files on the server. All you have to do is fetch them, and you have to do that by clicking one of these icons. So if I update Malware, what it will do, it will delete all these files and then replace them with a new see, it's done. So you can see there's one more file that they did not have previously. Now they have it. It's 287 files which are there. Okay, now I'm having latest Malware config files. you can always check the speed of the nodes. So if you want to see which Malvad VPN I should connect to, it will do a quick test of all VPN IPs and give you the fastest. Of course, to configure it, you always have to edit this file first, then you can start Malvad. Because I don't have it predefined, those are commercial, I cannot put my ID on it. You have to buy your own and put your ID on within the configuration file, which is here, which you can see here. Once you have the fastest node that you would like to connect, so if you are in Germany, I wouldn't connect to a node which is in China. That would introduce a big latency between Germany and China. My best option would be Netherlands, UK, France, okay? So keeping in mind that you try to avoid Five Eyes countries, but you take the closest to your ISP. So this one will give you the closest to your ISP if you are connected to the ISP directly. Then you initiate a VPN connection. Among this, as you can see, this is the results. It tells me the fastest one is Netherlands, and this is the IP. Now all I have to do is go to Malvad edit, and I can ask it to use this profile, which is provided here. Of course, all this config is stored on a directory. You can go back to it and get it anytime and pick up the best match for the profile. Okay, if you don't want it to be randomly picked up for you, all you have to do is change this to 0 and then put your preferred profile IP over here. Of course, you need a username and password, and I hope this wasn't my real password. No, this was okay. This was an example. Okay, no problem. Okay, here you have to put your real username and password. This was just an example to show how to do it. And once you have it here done, all you have to do is click on connect, and it will be done. Moving from VPN to Tor, before I move there, as you can see, there is one free service. It's called VPN Gate. Of course, this is free and this is free, but there is a difference between, big gap between this and this. That's why I'm having it at the end of the list, because I don't recommend people to use this. Over here, I know what I'm doing. I know my servers, and I know how it's been configured. I know the VPN, OpenVPN protocol has been adjusted to use the best algorithm. The strength of the algorithm is being researched. It's not just randomly put in there. So I'm not using default configuration on the back end of the servers. While here, you have to trust someone else which you don't know and who's running a random VPN somewhere and is giving it for you for free. Is he monitoring you or not? I don't know, I cannot guarantee you. That's why you can see the priority is arranged based on what I recommend. So for me, myself, I use Kodachi because I'm the owner, so I know what is inside there. If you don't trust Kodachi, your best option is to start with OnVPN, or gradually you keep going, start MalVPN, or you go to HiveMe or Nord or Proton. Is Malvad VPN trusted more than Proton VPN? From my personal perspective, yes, I do trust Malvad better than Proton VPN based on the research I did. I think I explained this. So this one, I'll put this one. So if you enable Tor without VPN, you are allowing Tor to run even though VPN is not running. So be careful with this if you want to enable this. If you want to Torify the entire system and make sure no packet leaves your operating system without entering the Tor network, you should always enable Torify. At the moment, Torify is not enabled. Therefore, you don't see a Torify option here. So let's try Torify now and see how it works. This is a normal terminal. As you can see, it gives me, the terminal says I'm from Taiwan. I'm actually not from Taiwan. I'm from Netherlands now, based on the VPN. But because the terminal itself has been Torified now, so it says I'm from Taiwan. If I disconnect Torify, which is this IP, as you can see, there's two IP, one for Tor, one for Torify. Now the system, entire system is not relying on 19, it's relying on 225. So you will be seeing whenever you browse or anything, you do anything, it will all be based on the 25 IP. Now, if I go and say stop Tor, what will this do? It will disconnect from the Torify system. It will get back your normal DNS instead of Tor DNS. It will get back to the normal DNS. But now, what happens if I launch this again, terminal? You can see now it says from Netherlands because the system is not Torified. Here it was from Taiwan. Now I'm again back relying on my VPN connection. Now let's move forward. It will get back. If I enable it with VPN, you will see it back again here because I've disabled it. What you can do, you can stop it. You can run Torify shell. So this is the normal shell, but if I want my shell not to Torify the system, only the shell, I need only to Torify the shell, I will have to run Torify shell. Over here it's interesting. These features will exclude some countries. So if I don't want my node, exit node, to be part of the 5 countries, I have to click on this. If I click on this, it says enabling 5 eyes Tor block. It means anything to do with, I don't remember the 5 countries, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and there's 1 5, I don't remember it. Anyway, it will exclude the exit node from those countries. If you need to exclude 14 countries, you have to click on this one. If you need to exclude 9 countries, you have to click on this one. And it will tell you here, as you can see, that the Tor has been changed, and it tells you excluded eyes is 5 countries at the moment because I clicked on 5. If you want to get an IP or exit node from anywhere in the world, all you have to do is click on random. When you click on random, what does it say? Dr. Please, desire Tor exit after 16. Okay, after 16 seconds, it will automatically change to another exit node. Or I can come here and specify, say, okay, I want specifically to be from the exit node to be from Italy. And this will change to Italy after a few seconds. Over here, you can use onion share to share files. This will allow you to share files over the Tor network. So you cannot have a security system like Kodachi or whatever you're using and use Dropbox. So don't use packages which have not been properly audited with Kodachi. So I'm trying to have everything that a user might need in a secure way. So if you need a file share, there's a secure way to run a file share, which is onion share. If you want to run torrent, there's a secure application for torrent. If you need cryptocurrency, there's a secure way to run cryptocurrency. This is how I made it easier for the users to run packages that they might think Dropbox is convenient. Yes, it's convenient, but when it comes to usability, when it comes to security, you have always to sacrifice usability in order to get the best security. And therefore, I recommend to use Onion Share. We have Onion Circuits, we have Tor Obfuscation. Of course, if you use Tor Obfuscation, you have to click on this file, and it says here, you have to go at the end of the file. This is pretty advanced, but you can do it here. This is where you play with it. I've already have the settings for you ready. All you have to do is uncomment and have your own values over there. Let me close this. And as you can see, we clicked on Italy previously. Now we have Tor here, it says from Italy. So manually you can select the exit node from this menu. Now let's talk about the DNS. What can be done with the DNS? With the default, when you launch Kodachi, it will always have DNS script. DNS script is secure. I like it myself, and it's much better than relying on browser DNS. I would rather rely on DNS encrypt rather than relying on something like Cloudflare or. And okay, they say they're secure, but they haven't been audited yet. So using DNS scripts is my preference. Why do I have Tor as number one while I'm having this as default? Because Tor is not stable. You know, I don't want to release an operating system while someone tries to check the net and it's very slow because the DNS queries are taking ages. Because, you know, exit node can be from Afghanistan and it's very slow. How can you query your domain to IPs? It will take very long time and people will start hesitating using Kodachi. Therefore, I'm using DNS because I'm pretty sure DNS script is encrypted and it's very fast and it's reliable. But if you trust that your connection is very fast, you can always switch to Tor DNS, which is much more secure because it's not centralized, it's decentralized. This is centralized, but yet you have a couple of on the config, I don't know where is it, I have to find it, but on the config file, I have predefined of maybe 15 nodes, which have been well tested. I've checked their reviews, and I've put them there as a default. So it will randomly pick one of the nodes, and you can always check whether your IP is leaked or not from any of the browsers. So if I go to the Lite browser, you can always check your leakage. If there's a DNS leakage, I always have predefined menus for you. So over here, anything to do with your IP, your phone's fingerprints, your audio fingerprints, it's all on the first menu. On the second menu, it's all to do with your DNS leakage. So here it tells me I'm from Netherlands, and if I start the DNS leakage test, it will tell me actually. So if I see here Oman, which is my country, my loving country, if I see it here, then I wouldn't trust Warith any day. I wouldn't use Kodachi because I'm having VPN and Tor, and at the end my DNS queries are linked to my ISP. This will be very bad. As you can see, I'm having from different countries, and Oman is none of them. You can always have extended tests. It will give you much better results, but it takes time to avoid that. To save time, I'm going to skip that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how are these organized? They are organized based on tests. I went to some websites that normally they perform DNS security tests and give you results. And I did a test for each one. And based on encryption, on latency, I made the decision how to arrange those providers. So if you ask me, Malvad had much better results than Quad9. So if you ask me, Warith, you gave me all these DNS options, but I like none of them. I want to use my own, and you're forcing me to use your DNS that you think they're secure. Okay, this was on previous version. On latest Kodachi version, you can always have, I think it was from 7.0, you could always have your custom DNS. So you can change. So at the moment, it says my DNS is 127021. And if I say I want to change 2 of my DNS, so I will press 1, and I say my first DNS will be 9.9.1.9. My second DNS will be 1.1, or let's say that's all cloud red. Let's say 8.
Mm-hmm.
Now what you can see, it will change, and it says custom DNS started, and I can see my custom DNS here. And you can always verify that you did not do a mistake. It's ping a domain, any domain. And it will tell you if you get a response, it means, well, you did a good job and your DNS were correct. If you don't want to do this, you can come here and see a ping. And if you see a 0 here, it means you messed up the DNS because this is a pinging domain. And the other way, internet will be offline. Instead of being online, it will be offline if you have the wrong values. Of course, you can show the current DNS. It will give you the current DNS and it tells you this. If I need to revert back to any of these, I just click on them. Now I have a special category here, which is different. This doesn't mean they're less secure. No, I'm having them here because they do filtering. which I don't recommend, but few users requested this as a feature. So if I need a DNS where it will filter out any malware websites, all I have to do is click on this or on this. Two providers that give you this facility, and they're doing a good job. But to ask me, security-wise, I wouldn't recommend, because filtering means I'm reading your DNS queries, then I'm telling which is good and which is bad. So I wouldn't do that. If you want to filter adult content, you can do that. So if you're having your kid using Kodachi, always use the adult filter DNS. Whenever they try to reach out to adult content, immediately they'll be stopped. Automatically that will be done. So this is to do with the DNS. If you don't have any questions, I'll be moving to the next one.
Warith, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you please, in the next release, put Yandex DNS in the end of the less secure DNS, especially for Russians?
Really?
Yes, people actually in Russia, they tend to avoid some like things with Yandex because it's like very global and it's mass and very popular and everything. So people who are in cybersecurity field, just a little bit, they understand that they might collect a lot of data and everything. So I would tell you like 100%, like any of the cybersecurity specialists in Russia, I would say even like in the all post-Soviet countries, they won't ever use Yandex DNS.
Okay, this is out for the record, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I will remove this. Maybe put it one of the end. Yeah. Okay.
It's the same as people, for example, in Russia, they use Signal because it's American. They tend to not to use Telegram that much. It's very popular, but so some very private conversations. It's the opposite. When people from the US, they will use Telegram or something like Russian.
This because to be better, because but yeah, I will definitely move it back. No worries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Now I'll move to the next one. The next menu where you have your security applications. I start with messengers because they're commonly used by people. And as you can see, Riot is the one I recommend the most. And Signal, convenience-wise, Signal is much better to use than Riot. But if you want much higher security, I would definitely go with Riot. And you have Wire. Then you have the other ones which are known like Betagram, which is an alternative of Telegram. Why I'm having this instead of Telegram? Because it supports cryptocurrency information. You have disk encryption utilities. This is what I was saying previously. I never rely on single source. So you can encrypt with VeraCrypt and have ZoloCrypt's mounted drive on top of the VeraCrypt. Over here now, if you tell me VeraCrypt has a backdoor, I'll tell you I have no problem because I'm always using multiple layer of encryption with different vendors. And that's why we have multiple vendors when it comes to Messenger and disk encryption. I don't rely on single vendor. You have password manager over here. You have MAT application. MAT will remove or check any existing file for metadata. People do this mistake a lot. They have a fully secure system, and when they send their Word document or PDF, they forget to check the metadata. And if you will always see corporate network path on the documents, usernames, everything will be on metadata. So to be safe, you can always copy the file here, use MAT, wipe the metadata, then send the clean file without sensitive metadata with it. GPA, you can manage your PGP keys. Firewall tools is like a sandboxing. So if I want to run Firefox in a sandbox, but nothing will be leaked to Kodachi, I will run Firefox inside FireTools. This is a firewall. Stasa is a very nice tool. I wouldn't miss this. I would like to launch it because I really love this tool. It has everything we want because it will also tell you if Warith has a backdoor here because it shows you everything, the services which are running, the startup services, and not only one type of startup. All Linux startup modes are here. So you cannot miss anything. Like if there's any backdoor, any malicious software that I'm not aware of, You will see it here. And you can see I made sure that most of them are disabled, which are not necessary. And the one which I'm having on, which you really need to run Kodachi in a safe mode, like firewalls and stuff. It has a lot of things. You can clean up your disk, your browser history. It does a lot of things. Of course, if you run a live mode, you don't need this because everything's been wiped out when you shut down. But if you are running installed version, you really need to run this from time to time to optimize your performance, to clean up your stuff. Let me quit this. Alternatively, you have bleach bit, which is really also powerful. I like it. And it will allow you to delete a lot of files that are not required. So if you see over here, your home is getting really big and this indicator is like almost here, 100%, then you really need to run bleach bit or stacer to clean up your disk space and check whatever is running on the back end. You have a root terminal over here. I think with this, I've covered this part. Moving to the second part, which is the security services. Okay, if you want to introduce noise, this is not really necessary, but I have it here for people who want it. If you're using your ISP, you don't want to use VPN and Tor, then you can introduce noise into your traffic. So it's like having 10 people browsing from within Kodachi. So the ISP would see like, queries of websites going on that you're not doing, while you are launching your browser and having your legitimate destination there. So if you're browsing eBay there, they will see Amazon and all other websites that you're not actually visiting at the moment. Those websites are not visiting at the moment, but it automatically does it for me. And I can put my destination website from there among the noise. So it creates HTTP noise for you. You don't really need it, but if you have to use your ISP connection directly, then you might need this one day. When it comes to file sharing, I spoke about Onion Share previously. And over here we have a different service. It's called SyncThing. I really love it. And it's not relying on Tor network. It's independent, very powerful. You can share with IDs. You don't have to reveal your email or IP or your phone. And it's a web browser interface. Once it is running, it will automatically launch you this page and you can start sharing. Of course, you have to provide the other destination your ID, and you can share files among two parties. Or also, if you need a backup, like if you're at home and you need to remotely backup files within your office, all you have to do is run this software over here and another version over there, and have a common folder. Whatever you put on the file, on that folder or directory, it will automatically synchronize with other destination, but with end-to-end encryption. That's the beauty of this. There's end-to-end encryption behind this technology. Okay. Now there's SSH. You can of course start and stop all these services. There's SSH. You can deny hosts if you have a predefined node that you need to deny from Kodachi not accessing it. All you have to do is put it on this config and then start deny host. It will deny it from accessing those hosts. GNU-net, you can run it. You can start I2P. For a couple of previous versions, I had a problem with start with I2P, but it was fixed on 7.0 and 7.1. And those are alternatives. They're similar to Tor, but their community is much smaller, and it's a bit, I won't say it's much slower than Tor, because whenever I try to use any of them, the network is really terribly slow. Now you can, over here you can see entity time information. You can, if you have rootkits installed in Kodachi, you can use this to find out if I'm using non-signature rootkit. If I'm using something custom, I won't tell that this will tell you everything. If there's a custom rootkit, you won't be able to find it by this tool, but it will, to some extent, it will help you if you are downloading a file, malicious file, and you get infected. This tool will always be handy to identify if there is any malicious files running on your system. With these tools over here, you can always, okay, if this one says my IP of VPN is ending by 200, and I need to verify whether md5calculator.com is actually giving my real IP. With this script, it will go to multiple sources and it will check whether my IP is real or not. See, as you can see, from different sources, automatically I'm cross-checking your VPN IP. I can also check your country, so from different providers, so you can be sure whether if this one says from Netherlands, is it really from Netherlands? From single source, you cannot 100% rely, but from multiple source, you can be confident that the information is accurate. And if you cross-check between here and here, it's definitely the same. Of course, if you have Tor running, it will also verify your Tor IP. So here it says 194, and here I'm getting 194. That's the purpose of this script. Now, if we go to, okay, this is, I've always been asked, if I lose my VPN connection, how can I stop my SP IP from leaking? You need these two scripts. It's all predefined. If you need only to filter your IP, so if your IP changes, then I block the traffic. All you have to do is click on this. Once this is clicked, it will block. Once the VPN is dropped, it will totally block the internet. But if you want to be more advanced and filter by port, interface, or protocol, and you click on this, if any of these attributes change, automatically Kodachi will block internet block the system from accessing the internet. So if the VPN drops, you lose the connection. I won't test it because it takes a lot of time to do it. Unless you want me to do it, I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's test the firewall to filter IP and make sure whether will Kodachi leak my IP or not. So if I have this on, now what I'm asking Kodachi, that Kodachi, if VPN drops, please don't allow any of my internet to go through the system. So now the IP is stable, it's 200. So let's have another window open here. Think google.com. So let's assume you lost your connection now. So I come over here and stop VPN. If I stop VPN, what does that mean? It means my IP is getting revealed. It hasn't been stopped yet. So now it's been shutting down. So you see, VPN is shutting down. As you can see, automatically here, Kodachi is forbidding any packet to go out. It won't leave the PC. So this is all automatically done for you. If you leave Kodachi with a task going on and it's very critical, and you're going to keep monitoring it, and you want to go and do some other task, you can always run this script and rely that your IP will never be leaked. It won't allow you to have one internet connection unless manually you go and say, allow all internet, then it will start pinging again. So,
very cool feature. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, you can see it's offline. It went offline. It says the internet offline. You lost your rates of BTC because they have all been retrieved online. So whatever is retrieved online, you are losing it. And once you allow the internet, everything you get back. As you can see, the values are back. Okay, once you have your internet allowed, and over here you have all your values back. With this one, you can do it manually. Say, well, suddenly I wanted to stop all my traffic. Make sure nothing leaves my PC. You have to. Why is this keep stopping? Okay, we'll pause it here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bug. How did this be recorded? Wow, since 10:30. It's 2:30.
Yes, I see.
Okay, we will finish soon. I'm almost there.
It's fine. No worries. No worries.
It'll be a very long video.
I will cut it maybe in some parts, so that's fine.
Yeah, the parts that we're chatting in this, yeah. Okay. Why not having my VPN? Okay, not running VPN. See, myself, I get confused with this operating system. Because there's a lot of things, we have to remember a lot of things that because we disconnected VPN, and now it says, you know, we have alerts here that VPN is not on. Anyway, now we're going back, okay? Right? So with the last feature over here, if you ask me what I want to block all my internet and nothing leaves without filtering the VPN, all I have to do is click on this. If you block internet over here, finish, you're not allowed to access the nets. You're going to lose everything. And as you can see, I don't have to ping, but you can see it says offline. To get it back, you have to click allow. There is another way to do it, which is a better way. If you go to panic room, you can always disable all network devices. This is much better. So with that, I'm blocking traffic packets. With this one, I'm disabling all my devices, which are connected to the network devices, which are connected to Kodach. Now moving to the next one, we have the normal applications. So over here we have the security application, over here we have the normal application. Those are the daily use. If you remember, your question was, can a normal user use Kodachi for daily basis? Yes, because everything you need on daily basis is actually here. You can have cryptocurrency wallets, FTP, file manager. You have remote controllers for RDP, file explorers, 2 to 3 of them, file transfer utilities, synchronization utilities, comparison utility, file set, advanced file set, players. This was the alternative of VLC player. You have another player here. You can have different screenshot utilities for video and for photos and screenshot captures. You can edit your audio, your videos. You can have image viewers, 3 of them you can see over here. You can have network configuration tool, DNS query tool, network tool, transmission for file downloads, terminator, another terminal command line. You have office stuff over here, library office, all the non-stuff. I don't have to go through them. What is extra here is the calculator, clip manager, clipboard manager, with notes, another type of notes, text editor, and this is a bit for programmers. That's why I'm having it here, because sometimes we need to modify Kodachi script. I would rather use this rather than use the normal text editor. When it comes to system applications, those are not being put here by me. Those are the normal Ubuntu packages that normally come with Ubuntu, like task, settings, update, and this one, they all come with Ubuntu. But what is custom is htop to see your CPU users and all memory users. You have different packages to update or grab new packages. If you need to see how much Kodachi is, always the password is root 00 r at symbol t00, and you authenticate once and it won't ask you again. You can see your disk usage over here. You can do partitioning if you need to partition any hard disk, increase or shrink a drive. This is the user actually, and it will go here. See, automatically it will give you if there is a huge file consumption in this disk, it will automatically identify it over here. They are very handy to use, and over here you have multiple virtual keyboards. Redshift, if you need to reduce the contrast or brightness of the screen, is very helpful for your eyes. That's what I'm having this here. Those are normal things that come normally with the Conti package. And if we move to panic room, okay, most of what you see here It's not most, it's all of it. All of it is Kodachi. So if we come here, and this one, and this menu, and this menu, these are all Kodachi scripts. You will only find them on Kodachi. So that's why I don't want to rely on this menu. Some people say, I don't want this, I need to use this. If you use this, you're going to lose all of this functionality. And it's very mandatory to have this functionality. Over here, you have a MAC address changer, where you can change your MAC address. At the moment, it says my MAC is ending with 30. So if I say, number one, change all my MAC addresses, it says, okay, your current was 30, your new one is 33. So definitely you will change here and tell me it's 33. And what you can do, you can force change. If you get an error and it doesn't allow you to change, you click number 2, enter number 2, and it will definitely change it for you. You can change a specific MAC address if you need to put your own MAC address. You can show what is assigned. So if I say, show me what is assigned, it will tell me 33. If I messed up and I want to get everything back, what I can say is, number 6, I have an issue, return all MAC addresses to the original state, and it will return everything to the original state. So this is the original, was 30, and yes, we have it back again. So this is the MAC changer. Previously, I had MAC changer automatically done for you, MAC changing automatically done for you while boot up. Now you might ask me, this is what currently done by Tails. Why I'm not having in Kodachi now? Because some network cards, especially Intel, they have a problem. When you change their MAC, you lose the internet connection. You cannot connect. So that's a bug with Intel, and many people are having PCs and laptops with Intel network interface, and that's my issue. So I have to put this as optional and not as mandatory when the Bluetooth changes it for you. Now, if we go to the next one, we have memory tool. Over here, you can wipe your memory. This is the question you asked me, whether it's done or not. You can see here that you can do it manually. You can wipe and shut down. You can watch your memory. You can see your usage. You can see your keyboard status, what is on and what is off. So if I say clean my memory, it will clean and give you the status. So definitely you see this changing. This was 12, we might see 10 now. So if I say watch what's eating my memory, I can come here and monitor and see what's going on within my memory. So actually this is advanced, but you have all of this actually here. So all displayed for you. And IP source tool is the one I told you I will show you later. So now I'm having my IP source from random selected IPs. One of them is this, the current one. So I don't want this. I want all my IPs to be centralized from DD77.com, sorry. All I have to do is choose number 2, centralize, get them only from DD77. 2, enter. Now this will not fetch the IP from any site. It will only fetch it from DG77.com. Now the second one will change now. Let's give it a moment. As you can see, the domain has changed. Now it's centralized. All IPs are being fetched from DG77.com. If you have your own domain that reveals plain IP address, you can click number 3 and give it your own domain, and it will set it up for you, and you will see the way. All your IP queries will be fetched from that custom domain that you provided. Now let's see what's next. Storage tools. Okay, this is big and it has a lot of features, but some of you will need it one day, because if you need to create a persistent Kodachi, you might need this if you need to do it manually. Of course, tools like Rufus will give you persistent. What is persistent? Persistent is I'm running a USB with Kodachi inside it, but whenever Kodachi restarts, it will wipe everything. That's the purpose, main point of it, right? To wipe everything. But if I want to save certain files on my profile directories, like desktop, documents and stuff, you can always enable resistance with Kodachi. I'm talking about persistent and not encrypted persistent. If you have persistence on and you want to play manually with the side of the persistent, you can come on this tool and create your own persistent, or also you can create encrypted persistent, but implementing it is very difficult so far. It's not automated. That's doing a bug on Ubuntu that I haven't fixed yet. I'm waiting for that to fix. On Debian, it's very easy to do it, but on Ubuntu, unfortunately, until now, I couldn't do it until they fix the bug. If you want to have a persistent format for Kali and Parrot or SDKs, is totally different from Kodachi. Why? Because they are based on Debian, it's easier to do. So if you want to create something to work with tails, you have to encrypt the entire partition. So this one will do it for you, and you can do it on persistent or encrypted persistent. For here, you can mount, if you have a flash memory, I need to do forensic analysis on this. I don't want to write anything, because if I write anything on this and I go to the court, it won't be valid because data was written on this flash memory, right? So what you have to do is mount it on read only mode, and this is for the forensic mode. Kodach actually will do this for you. All you have to do is click number 5, enter, and it will ask you for the label. Give it the label, it will mount it for you as read only. You can wipe the disk, you can nuke. So nuke feature is not only for Kodachi operating system. I can have this as nuke. So if I have encrypted container on this, and I run nuke on this one, what I do is, whenever I'm forced to reveal the password of this, I will give them the new password. So I will say this password instead of my real password. It will nuke the drive, and nobody will be able to read the drive. Even me, if I wanted to read the drive, there's no way back, unless I go and restore that address again. So this can be done on Kodachi operating system, and it can be done on flash memories. One thing I want to show you also before I forget is this one, only key. So with only key, the beauty of this, so if I have a Kodachi password, this is like YubiKey, but it has 24 password slots you can store. And you can set a code, so you have to launch it with a password. It won't open, it won't function without the correct PIN. So you can set a PIN to destroy it as well. So if you put that PIN, it's like a nuke for Kodachi. But it will nuke this, it won't nuke Kodachi. Now, if you want to nuke Kodachi and you have it on as a nuke feature, I might have 1 as my normal password. So if I click on 1, it will auto-type my normal password, I will log into Kodachi. And 2 for something else like Google, Gmail, or whatever. 3 for Facebook. Like I might have 6 to nuke my operating system. So if I'm forced to nuke my operating system, all I have to do is put this, click number 6, there's no way anyone can get access to Kodachi again. Okay. Now if you need to add swap files to the operating system, it has to be installed. You can do that if it's installed. At the moment, this is installed operating system, you can do that. You can encrypt swap files. You can display advanced disk information. If I move to the next one, the USB guard is giving you a feature to protect your PC from unwanted flash memory or devices. It will always ask you for permission, and also give you a facility, an option to ban unwanted devices. You can see all of them over here, and it can notify you if anyone has plugged a USB to a computer. You can change the configuration over here, and also you can run one of the tools that I like, which is USB key, where if you plug a flash memory and enable USB key, and I remove the flash memory, I can always set it up to wipe my PC and shut it down. So if you're traveling and you know that anytime someone will come and ask you to do the PC, force you to hand over the PC, all you have to do, plug in any flash memory, put it in, run USB key, and that's it. Whenever you remove it, your system is wiped and it's shut down. So they're very handy features. Now if we go to the other tools, you can see here system information. There's many information you can see. The JSON file that when I insert the health script, That's the heart of Kodachi. Everything is been written on the JSON file. So if you can display the config, you don't have to go over there if you're not advanced. Just click 4, and it gives you the current configuration of the JSON. All the settings of Kodachi, which I'm relying on to get this information which is in front of you, is based on this one. So you just go and click, say, display Kodachi JSON, and you will see it. You can monitor it. So let's monitor Kodachi. Okay, before I go into that, hardware ID is very useful if you get blocked. If you must download files from Kodachi and you got blocked, you have to provide your ID. The easiest way is number 2, copying the ID and sending it to me via Discord. I'm having a community channel over there on Discord. Always come over there, send me a private message that you got banned, and give me the ID, and the ban will be lifted. Of course, if it's the first time, if it's the number 3 or 10, I won't lift the ban because it's been repeated and I have to save bandwidth for other users. If we monitor the JSON, which is number 3, now it tells me what is being sent there. So as you can see, it's monitoring the RAM. This is the RAM, and it's sending the RAM versions. The RAM values, and also it's sending the status of health status script. So if it's running, it will tell you it's running, and you will see it here running. Where it should be, no, over here. It should be running over here. If it stops, which is now it will say stop. Sometimes it's very fast, you don't see it affected over here that much, but when it takes time, you will see it normally over here. I don't have this immediately updated, the conky, because it's a high resource consumption script. If you give it to update every 1 second, the CPU will go really up. So at the moment, I'm having every 15 to 20 seconds, it will auto update itself to save the resources. Okay, I think we're done with here. Then if you go to the next script, you can monitor your bandwidth and see what's killing your bandwidth. You can, if you have any issues with network, you can always replay your network. You can fix your display. If this one, anything wrong happens with this, or this one is not responding, or even these panels are not responding, you can always restart. If I need to restart, except the E2, they've been restarted with 1 click. If you're having PC, and that PC, maybe the sound driver is not recognized, or webcam, all you have to do is install Kodachi and then run the script. It will find the missing drivers, install them for you. Let's say you're having a visitor and you need to hide this information. You can always click on hide, it will hide the information. If you're having problem with your vision and the fonts are very small for you, you can always increase. So now it's increased from 10 to 11. You can see the fonts are quite bigger than the previous one, and you can keep increasing until you are satisfied. For resolution, if it gets changed, Kodachi will automatically detect that, and it will adjust the fonts according to the current screen resolution. If you don't want that to happen and it's bothering you, you can always disable it. If you have Kodachi installed, it will always ask you to log in with username and password, which is root, which is the Kodachi username is Kodachi, and password is roots 00 r @t00. But if you don't want to be asked every time for your username and password, you can always enable OS auto login. But we are going to use scores over here. Now, by default, printer caps is always on, but if you check the open ports, you will always see a port open. So if I go here, you can see here it says caps, right? It's this one, port 631, because we have the printer caps. Yes, if you don't like this and you don't want to print anything, always come here and say disable, and that will be off and you won't see that open port. Now, if you want to, okay, this is automatically done. If you ever lose your internet connection, most probably is something called EMS. What would Kodachi do is try to change the DNS values for you, just to get the internet back for you. So if you get a status over here, it's offline, and you've been troubleshooting this, nothing been done, Kodachi will automatically change the DNS for you. If you don't like this feature that Kodach keeps automatically changing DNS for you to recover the internet, you can always disable this feature. So normally I leave IPv6 disabled, and you can see it's recommended. But some VPN providers like Malvad would require IPv6 to be on, and actually it will automatically pop up a window and tell you that IPv6 is disabled. You have to enable it, and it will do it for you automatically. But once you are done from Malvad and you need to switch to another provider, you can always come back and over here and disable the IPv6. Over here you can disable your network interfaces. You can enable swap memory or disable swap memory. So let us try this feature. If I go to HTOP, as you can see, it says swap 00. And if I come over here, total swap 0. There's no swap. So let us encrypt, sorry, let's just enable swap. Where was it? Okay, here, enable. Okay, why is not allowing swap? Because this is a live version. We are on the live. Live, we cannot have swap. Let's go to the install one and try it here. So swap is also not enabled here. You have 0. Let's have HTOP on, check. Say 0. That's the difference between install and live. Some features you will have only on live. Whatever comes here is only for live, for installed one version of Kodachi. So if I enable, immediately you can see the 0 became 980. So you have 0 used out of 1 GB of swap. And if you have your swap on, you can also encrypt it. And that is done from the storage tools. You have to go here and encrypt. And if you notice something, my total swap now became from 0, it changed to value is 1 because you're already using 1 swap. But again, you can come here and disable swap. This will be 0, and this will be 0, and the other value here will be 0. See, it's all 0 now. So with one click, you enable, disable, you encrypt the swap. The second feature over here is encrypting safebook. This is like a bonus. I don't really use it myself, but I thought of having it. Whatever you put in this folder, this is the safe box. Whatever I put here, so if I create empty document, plain text, trace. Now if I have any file here, I'm actually able to encrypt this by using encrypt safe box. So it will automatically encrypt that folder. For me, if you ask me, would I use this? No. For me, I would rather use VeraCrypt and encrypt, or Cyric Kali or Zulu mount to encrypt a container or hidden volume, not relying on a simple Python encryption. This is not, this is secure, but not to that. It can easily be brute forced or cracked. So I don't recommend people using it, but it's there for people to know that it's there. Okay. When it comes to OS nuke, I explained previously what is OS nuke. When you nuke your system, only if it's installed, encrypted, then you'll be able to nuke it. And if it's nuked, you can always, it will always tell you over here that it's nuked. One of the features, so OS is live, no, it means it's installed. OS is encrypted, yes. OS is nuke, no. So if I enable nuke now, automatically this will be yes. And I'll be asked to put a secret password that I use whenever I log in on the router, and it will destroy the headers immediately when I enter that secret phrase. Now, let's assume you have the feature to destroy the operating system while boot up, right? That's available by nuke. We've already mentioned that. But what if someone comes in and the system is already loaded, it's already decrypted? So if this one encrypted, the current status is decrypted, so anyone can come and see the files. What can I do? What you can do is click on this one, destroy, and it will ask you like, I really want to destroy the system? You're not drunk? If you're not drunk, you're not high, you can click yes, and once you confirm, it will destroy the system. It will wipe everything. It will wipe everything. So I don't recommend using this unless you're not high and you know what you're doing. And
I have a question.
yes.
How long it takes to delete everything from the system?
To answer that question, it depends on how many files you have. So if you have terabytes on your home directory, it will take very long. But if you have few files that can easily be deleted, it won't take that long. You see it like running very fast. And why don't we show the users how it works? So if I say yes, this is live, so I don't mind. When I restart, everything will be back. I click yes. As you can see, it started to wipe the temporary files. Because why am I setting the temporary files? Because most of the internet and stuff, they go there. Then it deletes your logs. And it doesn't delete, by the way. It wipes your logs. So you can see the shredding process going on. It keeps shredding everything. Because if you delete and you get a forensic expert, he will come and recover everything for you. But if you shred, you are actually overwriting the data. You know, so you're multiple overwriting the current file. You're deleting it and then overwriting it with data. There's no way you can get it back. So that's how the story Kodachi works. Now you can tell Warith is still Kodachi is running. It's running, but it's useless. Most of the files you won't see them, they're gone. Because this is not based on the key. This is actually deleting and wiping everything.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. What was deleted as the header is the new feature, which is actually I run this one right now, and this is what you have seen. Okay. But your question is related to this feature, which is something else. When you delete, I'm not deleting the key. When I enter, so how the nuke system works, this nuke system will have two passwords. One is your real password, and one is to trigger the nuke. So if you run your real password, it will log in and you'll see whatever you want to see. It will open everything for you. But if I enter my secret password that no one else knows that this will trigger the nuke, what it will do, it will not delete the key, it will delete the headers, encryption headers. Encryption headers are used to decrypt and encrypt. If you don't have headers, whatever, the data is there, you're correct. The data is there, but it's encrypted. How can you decrypt it? Because the header is not there. There's no way you can decrypt and go back to the real data. You really need the headers. All, even PGP is all PGP VeraCrypt. If you open VeraCrypt and see one of the menus, it will give you to back up the header. Here, see?
Yeah.
Why are they backing up the header and restoring the header, not the keys? Because this is important to encrypt and decrypt. The keys you keep them, you already know the password. Yes? It's asymmetric. You memorize the password. It's not public and private key, right?
Yes.
So all you have to do is remember the password. It's in your head. But if you have the password, but you don't have the decryption headers, it's useless. You have the data, it's all encrypted. How can you decrypt it? Got it?
If you need a speed, then we press the nuke, like the green button, right? So it will delete the header. So, but overall, the speed of this process.
To correct you, if I enable nuke, it's not by only clicking this button. To get the idea of nuke, you want us to try it and you see?
Yeah.
So the users will have a feeling of what is it. Okay. So this system is not nuked, but it's encrypted. So basically, if I log in, it will ask me for my password. Okay, the normal password, it will log in. Now, I clicked on the nuke. So this is what it asked me. What do you want to nuke? It's automatically recognized the drive which is encrypted, which is SD free. So now I'm saying, this is the drive I want, yes. continue. Now it will ask me, are you ready to install custom crypto packages? Yes, because I have to change the crypto packages that I use for this header. I have to have something custom with a new feature. So I'm going to change those packages. See, it will download the packages.
Yes.
Okay, now as you can see, you are asked for password that is used to encrypt and restore your header. As you can see, there's a new file here has been generated. This is your original header. I'm going to protect it with a password and say this. The password will be, this is for them only. Test 1, 2, 3. I'm not using test 1, 2, 3 in my real life. Test 1, 2, 3. So I'm protecting this header file with that password. Now what will it ask? Your header backup file has been encrypted. As you can see, it has a padlock. It means it's encrypted now. With this file, I can restore the damage, which will be caused later. But I'm not going to backup this. I won't do the restore process. But you can always save this into external encrypted disk, another disk. You keep it away from the PC. Click continue. Now first you'll be asked for your normal Kodachi encryption password. The password that you used while installing Kodachi, and said, I want to encrypt Kodachi, it asks you for a password, you need to put that password. Now it's asking me for the password, I will put it. If I got it right, it will work. Okay. It accepted my password, so my password was right. Now the new password will be, to trigger the nuke and destroy the system, will be, let's say, Warith 2020. Again, it's asking me to verify Warith 2020. If you get it right, it will ask you for the next step. If you mess up any of the steps, you will see a red warning. Okay, from now, during the boot up, you will use your normal password that you have set up on Kodachi installation process. But if you are forced to open Kodachi, then use the new password, the new one which I put, Warith 2020. You have just set, and Kodachi will be destroyed. Let us try what we did. Okay, it says new process is completed. Now, see, can you see here it says
yes.
OS completed? Yes, and OS new? No. But within seconds, this will change to yes. Let us, yes, see?
Yes.
It's yes. So now we are nuked. If I go and shut down, now I enter Kodachi as normally. Any user will have this screen. So now I have two options. One is to put my real password, and the other one is to put the new password. Now I'll put my real password, and you see what it says. See, I'm in, right? It's accepted my password. It's booting, and we are going inside Kodachi because I put in my normal password. Now, let's assume I've been forced to open Kodachi. So I power in again. Kodachi. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
So previously, I entered my normal password, I was able to log in. Now I'm going to use Warith 2020, and that's the password will destroy Kodachi. If I put Warith 2020, it won't tell me that anything is wrong. It will just tell me your password is wrong. Okay, let's see how it works. It will trick the people who are behind you. So imagine you have 10 people behind you now asking me to reveal. I said, well, that's my password. I said, no, it's bad password. Warith 2020. But now I'm putting my original one. Finish, it's gone. It won't allow me. Now again, power off, power on.
So if there is no backup for this header, no one will enter the disk.
I'm putting in my correct password. See, it says backup. Because the header is gone. There is no way you can get into Kodachi because the encrypted header is being destroyed. But you remember the backup file that was created?
Mm-hmm.
If you save that backup file, you can actually restore Kodachi. But I've never tried to do that because I know once I have this, it means I really don't want to get back to it. I don't want anyone to access it again. So definitely for my preference, I will never back up the header. It will ask me to generate, I will generate it, but I will wipe it. Because once I put that password, I'm sure that I want no one else to be able to log into Kodach again, even me myself.
I understand. Mm-hmm.
It's clear now, right?
It's clear. Now it's very clear. Mm-hmm.
Okay. For this option, we are done. With these menus, of course, you can test your score. I'm done with panic menu. Now I'll move to the next features. Over here, you can do security evaluation. Normally, you see your score here because we just booted Kodach again, so everything is being retrieved again. But as you can see, you got 65 out of 100. You keep getting higher score based on what you do with Kodachi. So this is live, which is the best status of Kodachi to have it live. But it will explain to you when you click on the scoring script, it will tell you where you get the score from. So IPv6, if it's off, you get a 10. And vice versa. If it's on, you lose a 10. VPN is on, you get a 20. It's off, you lose 20. And at the end, you try to aim at least 80 out of 100. Of course, 100 is the best, but if you get 80 and above, that would be something that you can rely on. So let's see how it changes. It says over here, Kodachi browser, you get 10. So if I open Kodachi browser, this should automatically change to 75. Let's minimize it.
Mm-hmm.
There is an engine going on, which is the health script. It checks. So it saw there is a process of Kodachi running. It gave me 75 out of 100. So you keep building, you keep checking the script and keep building your profile until you get 100 out of 100. If we go back to browsers, I don't think I've explained the difference between those other browsers. I think I explained Kodachi Lite, how it works, and that loaded browser is based on Tor with more plugins. But this one I did not explain. Kodachi, so this is the Lite, this is the loading, this is loaded, and this is the paranoia version. So this one will have all the features of this plus some more. But this one will have all the features of the loaded, but more complicated with GHacks scripting. And if you need to understand what is GHacks, you go over here, and you can see what has been disabled and you can play with this. But trust me, if you use this version of Kodachi browser, most of the scripts will be broken. Most of the sites, because it will disable JavaScripts. I mean, it is a mess, but it's the most secure. So I left it for those who needs it. Over here, we have Kodachi with proxy chains. So if you don't want to Torify, and you don't want to use the loaded browser, which is based on Tor, how can you tell the difference is based on Tor or not? This is very important. This is the light one. As you can see, this is the plugin for Tor. It says direct. And if I come here and I go to advanced IP, it will give me IP of VPN, which is 50. But if I go to the loaded one, you can see there's more plugins over here, and this button is green. It's not grayed out. And you can see it's highlighted on Tor. It means this browser is based on Tor traffic now. If I go to advanced, my IP shouldn't end up with 50. It should end up with the Tor IP, which is 15. And you can also verify that by check Tor, and it will definitely tell you that this browser is using Tor. Of course, over here you have plenty of plugins. They're very useful. I cannot explain one by one, but they're very handy. You have predefined bookmarks, which I believe they will save you time. So if you need to know which search engine is secure, is it Google? If you come here, Google is on the list. What does that mean? It means you better use DuckDuckGo rather than using Google. Why I'm having these two here? Because they're not based on HTTP protocol. This one is based on Onion, and this one is based on I2P. So if I start I2P anytime, and I launch I2P, I have to come over here and change I2P protocol. Then the browser will function the I2P website. Otherwise, you won't be able to see any I2P websites. And to launch Onion websites, you have to be working on Tor. I think this should work. This address is not .com, .net, it's .onion, which means it's based on Tor network, Onion network. And as you can see, it launched because this is all based on Tor. If you ask me again, I don't want to use your loaded browser. I need something with multiple Tor chains. What do I use? I will close this and I will ask you to use this one, launch browser with proxy chains. It will do the same which the loaded browser does, but with multiple chains that you can define yourself. You don't have to rely on the automatic Tor selection. You can come here and define what nodes do you need it to go through, and it will do it for you, but you have to do it over here. Currently, I don't have any specific nodes, so it will rely on the current Tor IP, but as you can see, it's even giving you a warning. I don't know why, because let's see, advanced. See, I'm not using Tor here. It's direct, but yet my IP is 15, which is not my VPN. My VPN is 50, but it's basing it on the Tor. And as you can see, the script is here running. So this is based on proxy chains. If you have your predefined chain of Tor circuits, you have to go to the edits, put them there, and run the browser, and it's amazing. It's one of the cool features that I like to use. Over here, you have two browsers. One is Tor browser. If you want to use Tor browser, you can use Tor browser. And this is the Russian browser that I put over here because it has some of the features that I did not get on other browsers like Firefox and Tor. And those features we can just see now. It will ask you for a password. That password you have to enter. You choose any password. One of the cool features is you can protect the browser with a password. If we go to identity, as you can see, you have a lot of features here. You have Tor over SSH, you have SSH channel, you have SOC5, HTTP Tor, password protecting the browser, the home directory. Once we have a new identity, let's say Tor, and save. See? Now it will base it on Tor and Open Vision. Of course, I like this Vision website because it gives you some cool information about your system, and you can easily identify if there's a leakage. Now you can see my Tor IP is 15, but this browser has generated its own Tor circuits. Apart from this, the IP here is 32, which is a different Tor network. That's why I'm having this browser. I think by this I've covered most of Kodachi features, and I hope the explanation was useful. I did not miss anything. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Warith, again, thank you so much for sharing the knowledge and experience, and it's really an honor for me to make this interview with you, and it's really helpful information for many people. And I hope this video will help people to have a look at the Kodachi OS, because it's a really great operation system. And I would say people should have a look at it carefully. Perhaps it is the right time right now to move from Tails to Kodachi. And Warith, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you. Thank you for finding the time.
Thank you very much. It was an honor
Thank
to
you.
be with you, and I hope the video will be useful for everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.